if you work hard and you build a business and you earn that right and you earn that money, then that's wonderful. But you also see instances like we talked about a few weeks ago as well, where, someone just happened to have the right shirt on that day, and so he becomes or she becomes CEO of a company, and it's a disaster, you know? And so, I think everything that we do, our whether it be our vetting process for the people that we have representing us, the vetting process that we have for people that are put into positions of authority and or power, I think all of that needs to be looked at seriously, because I think we make some really bad choices. And the problem is we don't learn from those bad choices. We just continue to make the same bad choices.
You have these people that have blown companies to smithereens, wrecked them, and then they get a job with another company. The
right, they get a job with another company that pays them more money, and they walk away from that company that they basically drove into the ground with a golden parachute. And
exactly.
I think that's some of where the thinking comes from, and that part of it I can understand. I really can.
I completely understand that. When I look at these people, right, that have gotten these, they're getting $86 million because, they're wearing a blue shirt today, and the board likes them. These are the stockholders that are giving this guy the money.
Right.
If you want to take your money and give it to this guy, right, and he's going to take your company down, you're hurting yourself in the long run. Your stock's going to, plummet because, your company's losing money, and you want to pay this guy all this money. It's great. I think some of these parachutes are a little bit too big, but, somewhere on the line that's such a 1% thing. You take the average little guy in the street.
Right.
My wife was working for a company 14 years, and they told her that it was time to cut down on the workforce, and you have to eliminate jobs, and they eliminated all these jobs, and when she got through, they told her that great job you did, now we've eliminated your job. And
that's what I think some of the kids see. I think some of them see that their parents worked so hard for so many years for some company, and after, 15 years or whatever, end up being let go, and the kids are like, well, that's not going to happen to me. And so I think that's some of where the thought process comes from.
Yeah, I got to remember, our parents, I'm 65, so, our parents worked for IBM, and they started there when they got out of school, high school, and they stayed there, and they retired. They worked for Westinghouse, they worked for GE, and when my group was okay, we stayed at companies a few years, but the guys, the X generation behind us, they're making $160,000, and they leave a job, and they go someplace else. They just change jobs. Whereas our parents did. So I have a hard time thinking the way these kids think. They're not afraid to move.
Yeah, but see, and that's so I'm that X gen. I just see it as exactly what I said. And I'll use my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law worked for the same company for 20-something years, and she would have retired there. She ended up moving here to Colorado, but she would have retired there. But at the end of the day, when all was said and done, when she retired, she would have been basically, despite the 24 years of dedication, she would have been, living on Social Security and whatever money that she was able to save. Mm-hmm. So for us, for the X-Gens, our lifespan at a company is 4 years. And the reason for that is because we cannot get promotions, we cannot move ahead, we can't get salary increases. The cost of living here in Colorado, cost of living's gone up in the past 10 years threefold, and my husband and I, we still make the same salary that we were making when we moved here.
Yeah.
And so it's, that's the reason why. And it's not necessarily because of my parents or our parents. It's because these big companies got too big. And the CEO that was running the company, that started the company, he either retired or he was taken out, with a hostile takeover, and the board ruled him out, or whatever the case may be. And unfortunately, the company structure changed, and that's what happened. It happened at IBM. It happened to all those companies. Mm-hmm. And how many of them moved overseas?
Oh yeah.
So
but Frank, if you remember, at our age, we had all the hippies and all the guys against the war. So There's plenty of people radical left then too.
Oh yeah, Well, you know the Vietnam group, okay. That was your first group that really said anything. I mean, against the government. Again, you know, it was the first thing you think of when the Vietnam War was those kids from Ohio State. You know, that the National Guard shot. You know, but I mean, that was the first real revolution and people standing up against the government. And you know, in all these years, nothing's changed. The people still stand up for the government. The government does whatever the hell they want to do.
And you know, I mean, that's the thing. The way I view it is that when your generation was standing up to the government, it was for the betterment of humanity as a whole. It was for the people. What I see happening now is it's not for the people. It's for each individual, and that's very different.
The what's in it for me group.
That's very, very different, and that's what I see with these, you know, the kids that are joining ISIS and things like that. It's like, you know, what are you guys thinking? You're not doing this for everybody, for the betterment of people. You're doing this for whatever your personal agenda is. Maybe you weren't popular in high school, or, you know, whatever your reasoning is, and that's the problem. And they're so easily manipulated.
And when you think about it,
definitely.
This group, ISIS, and I don't know why they call them ISIL, but who cares who they are? They have great recruiting tapes for people who are a little bit off the edge.
Well, you know, their recruiting tapes are fantastic. You have to realize something, that these people, right, are trained from birth about how miserable and rotten the Americans are, okay, and how they have to be stopped. And, you know, you hear it enough times, you start to believe it, and they definitely believe it. And then comes the point where they start to recruit them to fight, that we have to beat these bad Americans. And you know, these people join in. I mean, they're not, again, you have that not well-educated group.
Yeah, but these people aren't.
Not that all of them aren't.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with ISIS is that it's not just about Americans. They are, it doesn't matter what you are. If you're Italian or Israeli or Swedish or Norwegian, they don't care.
You're not Muslim.
If you're Muslim, they don't care.
They don't care. And it's even Muslim if you're not their version of Muslim.
Right,
so,
because remember, Muslims don't kill Muslims.
Muslims don't kill anybody.
People are.
These people do.
Muslims are not supposed to kill anybody. They're supposed to be people of peace.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what's really scary about these people, is that they are just. I mean,
listen, and they're well educated. They're well educated.
But the part that I can't understand is that, you know, you have this 16, 17, 18-year-old kid here in the United States who grew up here. You know, you're taught in school, you're taught free will, you're taught to think on your own and to make your own decisions, you know. How in the world are they brainwashing them? How in the world are they getting them?
I don't know, but I have enough nieces and nephews that I really, and we have wonderful discussions when the family gets together. I can't wait to see it. The next time I really see them is Thanksgiving, and to listen to these kids. And after I leave there, I'm so, I don't know how it doesn't make sense to me, but they really, really believe in the things that they believe in. They're a generation of their own. They really, I guess they see all the crap that's going on here, and they want to try and stop it.
Well,
I don't get it.
Well, you don't stop them by beheading people.
Yeah.
Well,
isn't that, by the way, the guy that beheaded the people, is this the guy that the one of the principals or someone that works there actually had his rifle with him and shot this guy? Was that the guy who did the beheading?
Where in the
they think the FBI thinks the guy that did the. Oh, you mean the guy in the United States that did the beheading?
The guy in the United States that did the beheading. I think it was Oklahoma.
He was fired from his job. Went home.
He's fired from his job, but then somebody shot him when right? Is that the same guy? Am I?
Yeah. What happened? He went home. He went home, got a sore, and whatever else he got to start chopping heads off. And one of the other workers at the place had a gun and shot him.
The chief operating officer had a gun and shot him.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, now think about is he going to get in trouble for having a gun at work, though?
No,
well, so now you're the executive of a company, and you have to keep a gun in your office to protect your employees. Think about that.
Yeah, exactly. And
boy, the NRA must be jumping up and down in joy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They got new members every week.
Kidding me? Shooting like that is going to promote them like crazy. Look what our members did. They stopped the terrorists from killing any more people.
Especially the terrorists didn't have a gun. If the terrorists had a gun, then it would be the terrorists didn't have a gun. So the good guy had the gun. The guy wearing the white hat.
If the terrorists had a gun, the guy in the white hat would be running. He wouldn't be attacked. He wouldn't be facing his pistol against a machine gun. I guarantee you.
Yeah, just put that away. Yeah, put that away quietly.
and run like hell. Hide under that table.
Exactly.
Hide under the mahogany table. That's probably bulletproof.
The polished mahogany table.
Yeah.
Without the fingerprints on it.
How's Charlie, Ann?
He's good.
Is he listening tonight?
What's Colorado, Ann? I got to ask you a question. I know I have cousins that live outside of that. I think. I saw them at a funeral not too long ago. They love it. Everybody I talk to that lives in Colorado, which is maybe 8 people in my entire lifetime, they all love it. My uncle, when he visits his kids and his grandkids, said, what a wonderful state that is. Well, what are you doing right out there?
Nothing.
It's if you're an outdoors person, it's a great state. It focuses on healthy. When we first moved here, it was kind of a shock and awe because it was like, wow, what a great place to raise kids. The crime was really, really low. There were hardly any gangs at all. It was great. In the 12 years that we've lived here, that's changed drastically. And, we have a lot of gang activity, and now we had a lot of drug problems. It's not what it was. At least if you live in the suburbs like we do, you're completely isolated from the world, and it is a wonderful place to live. But if you're involved in any way with any parts of the city or the state, you get a very different perspective. So, it's got its ups and its downs. The weather here all year is really nice. You can, in January it might snow in the morning, but then you can go play golf in the afternoon. That kind of thing. But it's changing, and it's changing rapidly. Part of the reason why it's changing rapidly is because a lot of the cities are so overflowing with population that, people are coming here. So, population's growing here, and with population comes everything good and bad. So, it's interesting.
And how do you feel about the drug thing there? Is this working? Is this a good thing?
It was supposed to have...
too early to tell?
Yeah, well, it was supposed to have raised revenue, but it didn't raise as much revenue as I think they thought it would. The other problem is that the downside of it is the number of car accidents have increased, the number of deaths from car-related accidents have increased. That kind of stuff has happened. We're also starting to see a lot more of other kind of crimes, like, breaking and entering and things like that. So I don't necessarily... It's funny because when I was in school, it was one of the topics of conversation, should marijuana be legalized? Mm-hmm. And everyone kind of had their own take on it, and I kind of sat on the fence because I really honestly wasn't sure on how it would work. I don't smoke pot, I never had, but I thought, well, maybe it'll eliminate some of the crime, and now I'm clear